You would think that the offseason for NASCAR would be a bit more chill, but it's been anything but. From 2311 Racing announcing a third car to their team to a potential JTG Doherty rebrand, there's so much to talk about over the past few days, so let's get you all caught up. Hey everyone, I'm Taylor Kitchen and welcome back to Above the Yellow Line, talking about NASCAR all the time, and there is so much news to get you all caught up on, so let's just dive right in. But before we do, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed. Now let's get down to business. The first piece of news should not shock anybody. It's been rumored for a long time, and it's probably one of the worst kept secrets in the garage, but RFK officially announced that Preece will join their team full-time in 2025, driving in the number 60. Along with this news, the team also announced that Kroger will be moving their primary partnership efforts over to RFK, helping support all three cars in 2025. On a personal note, I have to say that the figurines of Preece, Buescher, and Keselowski, of like the Kroger figurines, are like the cutest darn things. I love it. I love Kroger's branding, and I think with RFK's social media presence and everything that they do so wonderfully on their social platforms with Kroger, their branding, I think this is going to be a really fun and collaborative partnership where I think both Kroger and RFK are going to get so much out of this. The team press release said that there will be over 20 brands on their cars this year, from like Blue Buffalo, Lunchables, Oscar Mayer, Heinz Ketchup. There's a whole bunch of products and brands that are going to be on this cars that will be highlighted through this Kroger partnership. I don't think I've been as excited about a partnership in a long time, and I know that Kroger has been with JTG Doherty for quite some time, and we appreciate everything they've done over there. I'm just really excited for this and the potential it has. Sponsorship aside, let's talk about this third car and then the driver. Now, RFK did confirm that this third charter is getting leased from RWR, so we do have confirmation of that. But for the driver himself, Preece, this truly is the best opportunity he has had in his Cup Series career ever. He's in competitive equipment with a team that is still growing, and I think the sky's the limit for RFK at this point. They are putting together race-winning contending cars every single weekend, and unfortunately, I would have said that Stewart-Haas Racing would have been the best opportunity of Preece's career, and at the time it kind of was, but we also know their performance kind of fell off a cliff, and now they're closing their doors. So to be on a team like RFK, that is, quite frankly, besides Penske, the leading Ford team, very cool for him, and I'm hopefully thinking that he can make a lot out of this opportunity. So though the pressure might be on to perform, knowing that this equipment is some of the best that he's ever been in, he can also feel at home. Chris Buescher is a former teammate of his. He's also partnered with Kroger before, so kind of a same people, different house situation, which I think ultimately will help aid his success next year. And I think he has the potential to be successful because last season was statistically one of his best. He captured the most top 10s of his career last season with 5. Ultimately, though, we want more, and I think he can capture better stats in RFK equipment. So that's the news with Preece. Let's move on to another Ford driver and another Ford team, talking about Todd Gilliland. With Michael McDowell moving to Spire Motorsports, that leaves Todd as the veteran driver of Front Row Motorsports, which is some hefty shoes to fill, and the team is making it official by moving him to the number 34 flagship car at Front Row Motorsports with Love's Travel Stops as the primary sponsor still. He really is following in his dad's footsteps. We heard back in June that Gillan signed a multi-year extension to his contract with Front Row Motorsports, so they see him as their future, which is awesome. And I think that Gillan has potential to grow and truly be a star of this team based off of his results the past few seasons, and that he's steadily improved, which with this generation of young drivers in the Cup Series, with how little practice time they have, steady improvement is really all you can ask for. Todd Gillan tied his top 10 results from 2023 and 2024, but when you look at laps led, he was able to lead 130 laps this season, and prior to this season, he only led 11 laps. I think Todd is getting a lot more comfortable behind the wheel of these cars. I think he's getting more comfortable around his competitors. And I would say where these laps were led, I know they weren't all at super speedways, but Front Row Motorsports has done incredible things with their super speedway program the past few years. And this year, of course, looking at qualifying results in general, it shows. So hopefully their program, it continues to excel at other tracks that are not super speedway related, but it doesn't hurt to have a strong program at tracks like Atlanta, Daytona, Talladega to try to get yourselves a win and just keep racking up those good stats. As Front Row Motorsports is looking at the future of their team, seeing Todd Gillan as the face of it, Noah Gragson will also join the team in 2025. So kind of a reunion between Todd and Noah from their KBM days. The number that Noah will be racing in is not announced yet. And we do know that Front Row Motorsports is planning on having a third entry. The problem is the antitrust lawsuit between 2311 Racing, Front Row Motorsports, versus NASCAR. That's kind of halted some of their plans, so we're kind of unsure where things stand there, but there was a plan, maybe still is a plan, to have that third entry. It's just a matter of when is that going to get announced and how is that all going to work. Speaking of the federal antitrust lawsuit, 2311 Racing is not shying away from news of expanding their team, announcing today that Riley Herbst will be racing in the number 35 full-time next year for 2311 Racing. Of course, Monster Energy will continue to sponsor him as a primary partner, and more partnership announcements will be announced at a later date. Now, I know a lot of people aren't totally happy about this move, but I really do think that Riley is ready for this next step. I understand a lot of people are looking at his Xfinity Series stats and are saying, hey, he's raced in some top-tier equipment in that series, and out of 175 starts has only produced 3 wins. I get that. I really do. But you also see drivers in the Cup Series that skipped the Xfinity Series completely or ran so many starts in the Xfinity Series without a win, and then they went to the Cup Series and were miserable. At least with Riley, when I look at his Xfinity Series career, I see within those wins, 2 of those were dominant. Phoenix and then his first win at Las Vegas. And though it was an up and down year for him, he has had some consistency within his Xfinity Series career, which is all you can really ask for. And when he's been able to make some one-off starts in Cup for RWR, for example, he's made the most of those opportunities. So to say, hey, Riley Herbst isn't ready for Cup, I think at this point, with, again, little practice time that these drivers have and just kind of the way things are with the current state of the sport, I think he's as ready as any driver could be at this point for the Cup Series, for somebody who's moving up from Xfinity or even truck to Cup. Where I get nervous is this transition from Ford to Toyota and joining a team at a time where their future's uncertain with that federal antitrust lawsuit and what that's going to mean for the stability of the team. That's where I get nervous about Riley Herbst being able to be successful at 2311 Racing. But if everything works out okay, I definitely think he can be, and hopefully elevate that team a little bit more. So there's definitely a lot of potential for Riley Herbst at 2311 Racing in 2025, and I am very excited for that opportunity for him. But speaking of potential, I hate my segues today, so I'm so sorry. But JTG Doherty looks like they're going under a potential rebrand. Some motorsports fans went by the shop and took some photos of the new signage on the building and on the haulers and everything in between that say Hayek Motorsports. According to Bob Pockrass on Twitter, Gordon Smith, one of the owners of the teams, took over full operational control from Tad and Jody Guschichter. And after doing some more research as to how this all fits together, the new name, where it came from, Gordon Smith is the chairman of the board and president of Hayek Maritime, which is a US-based marine transportation agency. They do so much more, but just as an FYI of how that all fits together. So it does appear that JTG Doherty will have a new look and a new name for 2025, with Ricky Stenhouse Jr., of course, staying as their driver. Speaking of changes to established teams, we all know that RCR has gone under a lot of changes this year, and during the offseason, that is no different. They're essentially overhauling their entire competition department. The team announced today that Richard Boswell will be moving to crew chief Austin Dillon in 2025. And ironically enough, Richard Boswell was the crew chief for Chase Briscoe the past few years. And the ironic part comes in knowing that at Darlington, it was Chase Briscoe versus Austin Dillon's RCR teammate, Kyle Busch, for a playoff spot. And ultimately, we all know Richard Boswell and Chase Briscoe ended up winning that final spot, winning the race. So ironic there, but if you can't beat him, I guess this is the perfect example of joining them. It was also announced that Justin Alexander, who was the crew chief for Austin Dillon, was released from the company. John Klausmeyer will serve as the organization's technical director, and that Keith Rodden will serve as the VP of competition. So a lot of changes are going on at RCR, but to be frank, and you all know this, it's necessary. The performance at RCR has been abysmal. This has been the worst season I've ever seen from Kyle Busch, at least that I can remember. It's unlike him to not win in a season, and unfortunately, his streak of continuous wins each year died in 2024. I guess that's a really harsh way to say it, but yeah, it went kaput in 2024. So hopefully getting RCR back to their winning ways, or at least at this point, just contending for top 10s consistently. I think that's all we can ask right now. but hopefully these changes serve them well. Let's move out of the Cup Series and move to the Xfinity Series and Truck Series. Of course, we know that Christian Eckes is moving to the Xfinity Series full-time with Kaulig Racing in 2025. The question was, who was going to take that championship caliber equipment over? And we know our answer, and that's going to be Daniel Hemric. He'll drive the number 19 Chevy Silverado in the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series with primary partnership from Napa. And this is his first full-time season back in the Truck Series since 2016, where he put together an impressive season with Brad Keselowski Racing. And thinking about Daniel Hemric's career, it's had a lot of ups and downs, and I think this year in Cup did not go the way we expected at all. It was quite disappointing. So for him to move back down to the Truck Series, I think is ultimately going to benefit him. I know he's done a lot of moving around in his career to the different series, but I think having a veteran racer in him move to Truck will not only kind of establish a baseline for the Truck Series in terms of competition, but I think it'll force the other competitors to race hopefully a bit more respectfully and a lot harder. I think we're going to see better competition because somebody like a Daniel Hemric is in there. I really do think that we need veterans to kind of set the tone in the Truck Series, so hopefully Daniel can do that. As for my hope for Daniel, I hope he's able to win in that 19 truck because we know that 19 truck is capable of doing such. We also know, though, that Daniel has never been able to capture a win in the Truck Series. He's come very close. He's come very, very close, but not quite. So hopefully this year he's able to knock out a win or two because we know that that team is capable of doing that. Let's end our driver news for the video talking about the Xfinity Series with Chris Wright. He's going to be going full-time Xfinity Series racing in 2025 with our Motorsports. He finished third in the point standings for the ARCA Menard Series with Venturini Motorsports this past season, and we would hope that this would translate over to success in the Xfinity Series. And we all know this ride. He's going to be taking over the number 5. As Anthony Alfredo's, he turned some heads with his results earlier in the season. He's done an excellent job with bringing that team kind of up a notch in terms of performance. So the hope is that Chris can perform on par or close to what we know that equipment can do. I also am very aware that this is a full-time stint for Chris Wright. So kind of being aware that he's going to be joining this team full-time is going to be kind of a learning curve. But Chris isn't new to the Xfinity Series. He's done some one-offs here and there. But just keeping in mind the expectation versus the reality of this all. But happy for Chris for this opportunity and cautiously optimistic to see what he can do with the seat. So that's it with the driver news, but let's end this video with some track news because Circuit of the Americas is getting a new look, at least to us NASCAR fans. The track announced today that they will use the short course or the national layout for the NASCAR races in 2025, meaning that whole backstretch of the track, like a whole mile of the track, will not be in use for next year, which is kind of a bummer, but it does shorten the track. It also is going to add on laps because we're shortening the track distance for these drivers to go around from 65 laps to 100 laps. So that's technically more racing that we get to see in a way. I think what's exciting about a new layout for these NASCAR drivers is we get to watch them try to master this layout during the race weekend. Along with that, there was a repave on this track that the NASCAR cars have yet to be on. So seeing the Xfinity Series and the Cup Series drivers try to deal with all of this in one weekend, I think adds a bit of excitement to it. Overall, I'm excited to see the product that this provides. Obviously, we still have some issues with our short track and road course packages with the Gen 7 car. So I'm not sure. Hopefully some work during the offseason goes into making these cars better. So we get to Circuit of the Americas on what I think March 1st and 2nd first for the Xfinity Series, 2nd for the Cup Series. And we actually see some decent racing. But that's the news there. Circuit of the Americas, we're getting a new layout for NASCAR in particular with the short circuit, or I guess the national layout. I really wasn't kidding when I said we had a whole lot to get caught up on, so hopefully we're all caught up on all the news in the world of NASCAR right now. Of course, make sure to go to AboveTheYellowLine.com and visit us on social media, and make sure to follow the entire ATYL Media team to keep you updated on everything in all series of motorsports. Before you go, make sure to like this video, subscribe to this channel, share this with your friends and family, and thank you all so much for tuning in to this episode of Above the Yellow Line, and until next time, I'll see ya. Bye.